Governor, I believe the other big conversation right now in the country, if it's not COVID-19, it's BBI. And it's almost impossible right now to talk to any leader without asking them about BBI. I would like to pick your perspectives on BBI. And is there anything about that document you'd change to make it more meaningful? Where do you stand when it comes to this?
First of all, speaking for myself, I support BBI in the idea of improving the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And philosophically, you cannot but support any effort to improve the Constitution, to improve constitutionalism, to improve the rule of law as the way in which we live as Kenyans. You cannot but support. Now, you can go into some specific things, why you support and so on. But for our business viewers, they know this already. The election cycle usually has nearly as much economic devastation as the COVID.
Yes.
Nearly as much economic devastation as COVID. Now, I've looked at some data from 1983. So looking at elections vis-a-vis economic growth, and it is incredible. Every election year, the economy tanks. So in, say, 12 months before an election, we'll be cruising along at 5-6%, sometimes even 7% growth.
Yes.
Into the election year, we slide. On the election year itself, boom, we are rock bottom. Then we climb up again to 5-6% economic growth. Then we are into the election year, we slide, and then again, boom, we crash.
Right.
If you look at, for instance, 1983, we crashed to maybe around 1% growth. 1992, because of political violence, tribal clashes in Kenya, we contract 1.5%. So growth is minus 1.5%. We are in recession territory.
Yes.
1997, again we crash. To 2002, again we crash. 2008,
We all remember.
we are cruising along. 2007, we are flying. We are cruising. 7.2% real GDP growth. 2008, boom! Cause of it, political violence.
Yes.
Now, that boom and bust, which is driven by negative politics, negative electioneering politics, we must fix it. I was estimating, like if you look at, say, these 5% GDP, Kenyan GDP today is at approximately $100 billion. That's the size of the Kenyan GDP today. So 5% is 5 billion. $5 billion, not billion shillings, $5 billion, meaning 500 billion Kenya shillings. So when you look at that bust, and it tends to last 2 years, it means we are losing, 500 billion one year, another 500 billion another year. Is that any way to manage ourselves?
No.
So this effort to manage the political competition better by changing the structure of government and the structure of power is amazing. Yeah. In any case, by the way, viewers, it is not really a new idea. I was surprised this week to encounter an old document from 1997. 1997! I won't ask you how old you are.
Please don't. A lady does not tell.
Exactly. 1997. And this document is Muriithi's election manifesto. At that time, he had a political party called Democratic Party of Kenya. So they had this document called, 20 Covenants. So I saw a copy of it this week. You know what they're talking about?
What are they talking about?
They're talking about reorganizing the nature of the executive. In fact, they're saying they're going to have a president, 2 vice presidents, they're going to have a prime minister and 2 deputy prime ministers. Why? trying to deal with how do you make particularly the major ethnicities in Kenya feel included in the structure of government so that they stop fighting for it in life and death terms. 25 years ago. Go figure. So, as a leader, I want to urge all Kenyans, let's work at improving our constitution. And the constitution is a covenant by which we live. The more we improve it to suit us, the better it is for ourselves. And for those who are saying that it's going to be very expensive, I give you a number. $10 billion, meaning basically a trillion Kenyan shillings that we lose every election cycle. We must support BBI. And I would say to political thinkers and constitutional theorists and others, I would consider that even after this effort, there'll still be room for improvement. So if your ideas did not find space in this current proposal, sharpen them. And then in another 5 years or 10 years, let's do another cycle. Because we craft it, implement it, see where it needs tweaking, then so that it is continuous improvement, I support.
In the same breath then, Governor, speaking on devolution, do you feel like it has, or rather is, achieving what it was set out to achieve? I would still like to pick your on that.
Devolution is the best thing that Kenya has done in our 58 years of independence. There is no doubt.
Right.
It is the best thing that we have ever done. Is devolution working? Yes. Devolution is working. Could it do better? A good thing can be made better. Like what? We continue to have a bit of push and pull between us and central government, including them, as we say in Swahili, wananyemelea some of our functions, wananyemelea some of our revenue. Give you an example. Catering levy. The catering levy is a tax based on the food. Now, the licensing and control of establishments that sell food to the public is a county function. Yet, when KRA collects the catering levy, they send it to some guys in Nairobi. Take energy reticulation. Electricity and gas reticulation is a county function. So Mr. Kenya Power is honestly operating outside the law when they do energy reticulation. So they are still nyemeleaing. Take some of these regional development authorities and so on. So there is still that tug of war. So we could do better there by all of us living within the dictates of the Constitution, Schedule 4, which lays out what are the functions of the national government and what are the functions of county governments. Secondly, we mislead ourselves, or some people mislead themselves. When we say national interest is not only the preserve of national government. And by the way, the High Court, in fact, rendered such a ruling a couple of weeks ago, that when you think about national interest, it is possible for a county function or a county project to be of national importance. Right. So if you take, for example, a forest, Mount Kenya forest, Mukogodo forest, it is in Laikipia, Mukogodo, but it is of national interest. A road across Laikipia is of national interest. National interest is not only when it is done by national government. Why is that important? Some treasury mandarins have been using that basically to claw back county functions. That this thing is of national interest, therefore it should be done by national government. And the court has been helpful recently in clarifying. Third, we suffer administrative bottlenecks in the cash flow. Now, as you know, the revenue to counties is a constitutional thing. It is settled by the Constitution that revenue raised nationally will be divided between national government and county government. And then there is the operative law, the division of revenue. Then how you divide amongst the counties is a county revenue allocation. Now, even when these pieces of legislation are in place, an officer at the National Treasury still has to prepare a schedule and sign it to take to the central bank for the central bank to release resources. Supposing she doesn't like you. So we suffer some administrative bottlenecks. Right now, for instance, we are 3 months behind in cash flow. Why? Because the national government, the National Treasury keeps saying they have a shortfall in tax collection, and that may very well be so. However, whatever cash flow that is coming through, what they do is prioritize national government. Yet we should rank pari passu. And you mean we should rank equally.
Yes.
You know, like in finance, the way we say ranking pari passu. Like if two banks are sharing a security, let's say we borrow some money from some of our favorite banks like EADB or something like this, and a trade and development bank, and they are both lending to this business. Then we give them a title. One bank cannot rank higher than the other. So we say they are ranking pari passu. Now, even if it is 5 shillings that has been collected, national government and county government should rank? Yes. But what has been happening now is that administratively, they say, since we didn't get enough, wacha sisi kwanza. And that is what is wrong. So there's some ironing out to do, but I can tell you, there is no effort, project, initiative that the nation of Kenya has undertaken that can beat devolution. I mean, just look at it. You have 47 centers of growth, or possibilities of growth. Just think about that alone, and the ability for that to really put or push the economy forward. It's a fantastic thing.